Hi, Dotan. Welcome and thank you for joining me here at Entrée Capital's Founder Spotlight series, where we highlight some of the inspiring founders in our portfolio and invite them to share some of the lessons that they've learned along the way. Are you ready to get started?
I am, and great to be here.
Amazing. So let's get first to the basics. Tell us a little bit about who you are, and then jump in and give Authomize's elevator pitch. What is who, what, and who is Authomize?
Sure. So a little bit about myself. 44, based here in Israel. Prior to Authomize, I was at Checkpoint. I joined after they acquired a company called ForceNock. I was the CEO and co-founder at ForceNock. Prior to that, was one of the two founders of a company called Resec in the network security. So doing cybersecurity for many years.
And Authomize specifically, could you tell me a little bit about?
Yeah, sure. So very simply, we continuously monitor your identity and access policies within the organization in order to reduce the risk and recognize, find any threat, and remediate that. So
you're multiple time founder. They say a serial founder. How did you know when it comes to Authomize? And there's always that question is when you finish something, how do you know what you want to start next? And obviously you wanted to stay within the space of cybersecurity, or actually I'd love to know, how did you decide to stay in the space of cybersecurity? Tell me a little bit about the ideation process for Authomize after you had sold ForceNock, then worked at Checkpoint for a little bit. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there's you kind of got sucked to doing the same all over again in a sense, right? Cybersecurity is a huge domain and we do different things in each one of those, but it's because the way I kind of analyze things is what are my anchors? What do I bring to the table? So I know CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers. I'm able relatively quickly to get feedback from ideas I have, and let's say that I want to do a pivot and go to something in health tech. I don't know doctors, I don't know the system, I have no idea about compliance or anything. So kind of the entry barrier for me is really hard. It's kind of reinventing myself. And for me, the comfort zone is what I already know and did before, in a sense. Authomize was born when I joined forces with Gal Diskin, our CTO, and Ron Lieberman, our VP R&D. All three of us partners got together. We know each other, and we actually did an, I always joke, we did an ideation by the book, which is not very customary here in Israel. We had a few ideas. We ran those through different friends. Each one of them we analyzed. We kind of had a slide on each of them, analyzing them. The market is growing, how big it is, what's the risk, who's the competitors, what do we see, and then got feedback from different people. And one of the things we were looking at is what's called OPA, Open Policy Agent, which is in the authorization domain. And talking to the different CISOs, I think back then we talked about 30, 40 different CISOs, not just Israelis, of course. We got feedback about, hey guys, what you're doing, it's interesting, but this is more urgent for us. This is a bigger problem and so on. So this process took about 3 months or so. Where we got the feedback, we tried to quantify it, really saying, not just, oh, this is a great idea, but is it top priority? Are you planning to do something next year about that? How big is the pain? How much are you spending now? All those kind of, what did you try to do? Did you try to build yourself? So there are companies we talked with that try to build something themselves, which is a good indicator. This means it's a big enough problem for them to actually put an effort on. So once we were more or less understood what we want to do, Authomize was born and did a seed round and start building, and then a little bit pivoted along the way.
And did you do that with a script almost? Like, did you have a list of questions that each one of you kind of went through in your interviewing of these 40 CISOs?
Yes, but you don't, when you go on a call with someone, and some of those times it's just someone I'm picking on LinkedIn, pinging him saying, hey man, do you have 7 minutes to go on a call? And maybe because of my background, whatever, he's willing to go on the call and talk with me. You can't do it like a survey. You need to really have a conversation, right? So we had questions behind the scene, like a question, did you try to solve it yourself? Or how urgent is this for you to solve? Was in that kind of Excel. And then for each customer, we try to answer those, but it has to be soft. The other thing is that you're not actually pitching an idea. So this is really important. You're not coming saying, hey man, I recognize this problem. this is what I want to do. Here is a couple of slides about it. What do you think?
Right.
This way, you kind of narrow the discussion to what you're thinking, and in more than often, you will just get repeating feedback. Oh yeah, it's really important. Yeah, it's really interesting, and so on. And you can't learn a lot.
Classic mom test conversation.
Exactly. If you read the book, it's really good. And you actually need to go around and kind of saying, what's your top concern? Oh, what are you? Then they're giving you an answer that's not relevant. It says, did you also interested in identity security? Oh, wow. What's your IDP? Oh, it's Okta, it's Ping, whatever. Sure, great. Did you install it recently? And how do you kind of make sure? So, like, taking the conversation this way.
So it seems like you almost like, even from the beginning, you kind of knew your product market fit. Does that make sense? Like your ideation process was so strong that you knew exactly who was your target audience, how to get there, and what to offer them? Or
we knew to talk the talk. We didn't have the product, and this is kind of relates to kind of the struggle in the first 12, 20, 24 months or so, where you know the domain. You know the buyers, you're talking to them, the CISOs, you're trying to figure out it's a mid-market solution and it needs to be built in a certain way, or an enterprise solution built. And then you have design partners you're working with, and the feedback sometimes kind of takes you to a different way. So for example, one of the feedback we got from a customer early on was, can you help me with ticketing of permission? Which is more of a governance kind of provisioning side of things. And we said, we actually can, and this kind of took us to a different route that we wanted to take, and then we had to pivot back and think this is too not an interesting problem, which we thought it was. So there wasn't the product market fit. Product market fit is only measured by show me, like currently we have tens of customers. Okay, great. When you have 0 customers, you don't have product market fit. You might have an idea about what is the direction is, but product market fit is a combination of things.
And when you were in that process of finding that product market fit, are there certain things that you say, okay, we have to actually shift this very strategically because of X, Y, Z? Aside from that one that you had just mentioned, where it was, a problem that one of your customers might have had, but others didn't. What was that journey of the actual product from the start of the ideation to you saying, okay, Authomize, here we are, and you consider yourself that you found it?
No, you're always there. Product market fit is never ending because there's changes that happen. Competitors, market, the systems customers are using, the requirements that exist. So it's constantly changing and evolving, and the value is, I think there's always a struggle between a customer that has specific requirements, and you're trying to convince yourself, no, it's true for everyone. And to fire a customer is really hard. And we actually fired a customer about a year ago because it was taking us to a different direction than what we wanted to. So it's extremely hard to kind of say, no, I understand where is the kind of my market is and where I want to kind of what I want to do. And for us, it was also, in a sense, we wanted to copy a playbook of another company, in our case, Okta, that did something that addressed the mid-market, that wasn't addressed well, did it very quickly, rapidly, with relatively simple plug and play, not DevOps play, but plug and play through kind of the C-level. And it's hard. We're still kind of building it, right?
Why did you choose to do that? Can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean by wanting to, kind of copying their way of doing things? Is that advice that you might give other founders? How did you choose to say, like, this is what we wanted to do? And how do you copy someone?
so it's actually, again, only relative maybe to B2B and cyber in a sense, but you can go to the big deals, right? If I have connection with a couple of CISOs in Bank of America, whatever, and start doing the process with them, being a design partner, maybe paid kind of POCs and so on. Sales cycle is longer, more depending on your solution, if it's narrow or whatever. So in our case, we wanted to get friction with customers as quickly as possible, not with 1 or 2 customers, but with as many as possible. And this is also a question. There are companies that remain in stealth, working with a couple of design partners and then emerge. We relatively wanted relatively quickly to have that friction with design partners, not just to more, and going out of stealth relatively quickly. So to get those feedbacks in, because the domain of authorization is big and we wanted to narrow it down. So the similarities here was what Okta did about 10 years ago, where there was an identity provider solution, SSO solution for the enterprise, but there were nothing in the mid-market. That was the greenfield. In our domain, the authorization, it's somewhat the same. If you go to the big enterprise, they have multiple solutions that help them provision and manage, but in the mid-market, this is a mess. So companies that are, I can use a Hebrew, chevra, when you're kind of a bunch of people, a gang of people, and then you're a company. So around the 500 people, you need to tidy up stuff. So everyone that's 500 plus needs a solution like ours. When you get to the 10,000 plus, you have multiple solutions that some of them does some of what we are doing, some of them doing it to some of the applications, and so on. So it's more cloudy. And
you say you found that you had wanted to do mid-market because of all of the original conversations you were having, because you wanted to specifically copy this company, or you realized that your solution itself was only kind of cater to that mid-market? Like, I guess my question is, when there are companies that have an idea and there's founders that have something that they know will work, how do they know exactly what is that market that they want to target? You know, how did you choose and say, we knew this?
you gave the answer in the beginning. If you know who's your market, you know what you need to build, right? So this is kind of, for us, because we wanted quick friction, we needed to address the mid-market and their needs. So we did some discussion with large enterprises and got the understanding that what is needed in their environment is kind of a lot of more integration and kind of sitting between other solutions and so on, or addressing just one specific use case. We wanted something bigger. So we kind of took the long way here, addressing something that is much wide within the mid-market organizations, but I think the payoff will be much greater.
Now, it seems that you're in a crowded space there, cyber, especially here in Israel. Are there, ways that you are making sure to stand out in that crowded space, aside from building technology that is very specific to your space, or is the only way to stand out in a crowded market is to build unique technology?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, cyber is huge, right? It's the network, endpoint, whatever. Each one is different. But there's kind of two colliding ideas. One, you want to be on existing budget line. You want to be selling to someone, and you're not educating a market in a sense. You're coming and saying, hey, you need cloud security, and this is the budget line. I'm helping with cloud security. Super. But on the other hand, you want to be innovative. So, okay, I already have a budget line, means I already have solution that sits on that line, in a sense, like, I don't know, Palo Alto. So now, are you competing? Why would I choose you over Palo Alto? Are you replacing them? Are you in addition to them? Are you nice to have? Especially now in kind of the recession, everyone is talking about how you're a must or a nice to have. So, so there's kind of, those are competing. You don't want to come to a customer and say, you need to put another budget line for me, identity security in a sense, or invent that, or so it's going to be just next year or so on. So I don't have the answer how you kind of, but I tell you how I see it. I view it that you need to make it very simple to customers, very straightforward. It needs to be a must, not a nice to have. It needs to be, but when you talk to CISOs and you talk to analysts, of course, and you need also to talk about the vision and what you see coming down the road. Not now, but 2 years from now, 5 years from now, if you can. So they also need to buy your vision of how you see things and how they will do things and how they will benefit. So we were talking to one of our customers. I think it was Abnormal Security, which is also another security vendor, different domain. They're using us, or GitLab, one of the customers, and they were saying, wow, we're actually seeing now Authomize helping us with things. We bought you for X, you're doing X, and you're also helping us with Y, which is, so that's kind of, they also want to have a talk about the vision. So the vision defines a new category, a new way of doing things, bridging a gap that currently exist in this size, but it's going to be this size and so on.
You've been in this space for a long time, and you obviously you have really good answers to all of these questions. What is some of the advice that you might have received while as an entrepreneur, and advice that you would give to other entrepreneurs that are currently looking to build big companies?
What people that want to be entrepreneurs, this is kind of a term that is they want to build something of their own, right? This is the idea. If it's the first time, the only tip I can say, get ready for a bumpy ride. It's hard. I don't care if it's the first time or the third time. There's new difficulties. You're asking more of yourself. I remember when we said, round A will be 5 million, and you need to be with 2 million ARR or 2 million, whatever it was back then, licensing. And now it's, you need to be in a year time, you need to have 1 million ARR, and like the round needs to be 20 million, whatever, 15 million. So the kind of the market demands more growth from company. I don't know how the recession will, of course, affect, but there's kind of more pressure, regardless of if it's your first time and second time, and it's hard. It's not hard. It doesn't mean when I'm saying hard that it's going to be a lot of hours of work. This is given. What I mean is it's like the emotion, the roller coaster is, and the toughness is because in a sense you're so vested in something. You're going to lose nights sleeping because the product crashed with 2 of your biggest customers. You're going to be getting an email saying one of the customers just signed in, and you're so happy. And then 2 minutes later, there's another email saying, but you just need to do the security assessment. So it goes down, and because there's no way you're going to go with that security assessment. So there's kind of, it's a really, really bumpy ride. So my tip is strap it.
Is there anything that you would say has inspired you while building all your companies? Any books, podcasts, movies, anything that kind of clicked and is either advice that you've taken to build or things you think about?
So it depends. You mentioned, for example, asking your mom or whatever, which is some kind of a thin book, which is also great for ideation. There are books about gap cell, which kind of talks about the sales process. Not if I'm kind of old, so I remember kind of the ABC, always be closing, Alec Baldwin in the movie. So this is kind of the old way of selling stuff. I think there are real estate salespeople, today you're trying to kind of be more advisor, kind of trusted advisor, talking to the customer. He needs to trust you. You need to understand. You need to kind of make sure that you understand the pain and what is needed before start pitching your solution for a problem he doesn't agree on. So there's different motion of things. So this is a great book as well. There's tons of them, but lean startup, okay, go to basic and kind of try to figure out how you do things. AI automatically behind the scene, you're kind of writing things as you go along, just to make sure that kind of getting the feedback from the customer to make sure that you're building the right product. So there's a lot of different, depends on what interest. I would probably, for me, my advice is friction with customers. Don't build one line of code for fun or because it's cool or because, and then you're going to say, but if I can show the customer just a little bit. So it depends on your product a lot. I know it's very specific, but I believe in it's better to have 3 sessions with a customer and know him a little bit, but really understand why you're building what you're building, how he's going to use it, who's going to be the user. You're talking to the CISO, but the user is going to be some analyst. Talk to the analyst as well, and how they're going to consume this. I'm giving you a great data that you can do a lot of things. Really, who is consuming that data? How are they remediating or doing something with their data? How will they know that actually it worked? And there's a lot of questions like. Really sit with your customers and understand the need, and then start building it accordingly in a sense, and not just build it and try to push it to them.
Before we close this off here, I just want to ask 1 or 2 last
That's
questions.
it.
One is why Entrée, right? So we're sitting here, I'm from Entrée Capital. When you were choosing investors, or because you're a multi-time founder, you probably had the pick of the lot. How did you choose who you wanted to have backing you?
There's two questions when people ask me about VCs, they say, first of all, look if entrepreneurs are repeating to the same VC. That's a measure that's super important, because if you see a VC investing in whatever, a founder, entrepreneurs, they sell the company, but when they raise again, they go to a different company, different VC. Ask yourself why. So that's one metric, which is general. Specifically for me, for entering, this is the second point, relationship. I know Avi, I know Iran, I know Ram, I know the gang. They were super helpful in the ideation process as well, introducing us. And I think Entrée has a great story about supporting companies in the down and the up, and it's not just the happy all days, everything is shiny. And this is super important. And I knew him from the past. I knew him from ForceNock. I knew him from working with them, and for me, that's important. I will add to that when I need to consult about something, like I know one of the employees is running with a knife, killing everyone. So after calling the police, the next call will be probably to Iran, telling, listen, did you ever saw a company when one of the employees killed everyone else, and what did you do, and so on? Terrible example, but at least you will get headlines. So that's important as well.
Are there any last things that you, as you're finishing that, you've got employees walking behind you?
Yeah, without a knife, I hope.
Thank you. Yeah. Any last things that you want to add before we wrap this up?
Yeah, so there's some sort of perception. You go to Ynet and everyone is raising tons of money, and everyone is happy, and everyone is always smiling. And you have companies putting gongs and ringing bells or whatever. This is somewhat like the standing in the Caesar Palace in Vegas and looking at happy people coming out. Remember, the casino never loses. So statistically wise, those are really a few people. The rest is really struggling, and it's hard. It's going to be hard. More time than others is going to be hard. It's going to be difficult days, difficult weeks, pressure, changing, pivoting. You're married to a certain idea, you need to change. Just bear in mind that this is the norm. The norm is not sitting with a suit and having an interview in all smiling about the company growing and making tons of money, more than you expected, and whatever. So bear in mind, this is kind of where you're going, and stop looking at kind of the other people with brass and thinking that they're all happy and great. And that's kind of one thing. The other thing is, and I'm going to steal from US VP, from Jacques, put in your calendar about half an hour a week to look at competitors, not to copy paste, but to, and if those are your competitors, you need to know them, you need to monitor them, you need to understand because if your assumption is, they're stupid, I'm smarter, you're not going to do well. They are really smart. They see things like you see, even many times they are ahead of you, so they see more things than you see. And the wording they're using, the customers they're targeting, and so on is super important.
That is a fantastic way to end. That's really great advice. And just thank you so much. I think we took a little longer than we had said we were, but it was a really interesting conversation. So thank you, Dotan, and I look forward to being in touch.
Thank you, Faye, very much.